so that everyone is getting to think of interesting things and take away more than just one person can give. And then we'll do a Q&A with share-outs so that any questions you guys have that are specific to this class might be answered. Good with that? Okay. So a little bit about me, just because I know we did the intro at the beginning, but you hear that your Director of Professional Development is only a second-year coach, that would make me a little nervous. I did high school debate. I've been teaching since 2008. I got a master's in 2012. I started coaching last year. I'm finishing a dissertation in curriculum and instruction. My focus entirely is on how people teach and how that aligns with their philosophy, and looking at different ways that different teachers approach things. There's not one right way. So I think that I've kind of applied that to this session, and I think that's kind of why I'm excited about it, is just because that's my entire focus in my dissertation for my PhD. And then again, as Tanya outed me, the Director of Professional Development. So hopefully you feel a little bit better now that you're knowing that you're not just in some, with a new coach. So today with strategies, we're going to talk about some ideas for lesson structure. We'll talk about ideas for organizing your classroom, and then we'll talk about ideas for structuring leadership. I thought I was going to be really clever with putting in all of these features, and then I forget that they're there, so then I don't click through it, and then I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. It's way less cool if you don't do it on time, right? All right. So there's a lot of ways you can structure your lessons. My name tag won't stay. We all remember I'm Sydnie, right? We're good with that? Cool. I put a shout out on Facebook, and I was like, anyone that's ever been associated with debate, what do you do in your classroom that works really well? Prepping for this, this session, and I want to know what works for you. And I tagged a bunch of coaches, and I got 0 response. Nothing. And one of the coaches replied, well, I just teach it the regular way. Like, what do you mean? What are my strategies? And one of the common themes in a lot of research with education is that teachers teach how they were taught. And so for a lot of coaches, they come into it going, well, this is the coach that I took over, this is how they coach. Or this is how I was coached in high school. I approached it last year with the way I was coached in high school, which was very hands-off. Because that's how I was coached. Then again, I went to a school where by the time I was in high school, by the time I graduated, there had been 9 coaches in 10 years. It was not a solid program. Sorry, Olympus.
It's a great school.
Great school, great school.
It's okay.
But, so I took a very hands-off approach, and then I realized as I was looking at it, I'm watching all of these different ideas, and everyone thinks that they're doing the typical or the normal, right? And they don't realize how many different ways there are to approach what you do in the classroom. One of the things that you can do might be a full class lesson or a full class workshop where you have a specific topic and then they do workshops on that idea, right? You could have, okay, everybody, today we're learning about LD and we're gonna do all of this stuff regarding LD, and everyone in the class participates in this lesson. Make sense? Unless you have classes that are debate 1 through debate 4, and you have kids that already know everything that they need to know about LD, they've already had to try it, they already know they hate it, and then they ruin it for everybody else. Right? I'm hearing some amens, right?
Yeah.
Another option is to do mini lessons as starters, right? And you're going to do generalized concepts like, here's how to create an opening hook. That is not specific to one specific event, so it applies to multiple kids, multiple genres, multiple events, and they start to be able to apply it in their own little way, and you do these mini lessons at the beginning as a starter and incorporate it in. One of the ways that I've utilized for this year is to use an online platform. I use Canvas because that's what my school provides, and I'm not about to pay for something else, to help students learn. Again, you can do that where every kid learns every lesson, or every subject, right? In middle school, that's a whole 4 events. It's not as stressful. Debate, that's 15. We only have 7 weeks between the start of school and the start of debate season. So it's a little more stressful.
What are the 4 events for middle school?
Policy, oratory, TF, and LD.
What are the high school events?
Okay, I can do this.
Sorry.
Okay, not only am I gonna do it, I'm gonna see if I can do it in alphabetical order. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that'll be impressive.
Only if I do it right. Otherwise, we're all gonna learn that I can't do my alphabet.
I'm gonna write them down so we can check it.
Okay, all right, so we have big questions. We have Congress. We have duo interpretation, dramatic interpretation. I'm actually going through the letters in my alphabet now. Can you see the wheels turning? Humorous interpretation. Extemp, which has two forms, international extemp and US extemp. Humorous interpretation. Impromptu, informative. Lincoln Douglas. Oratory. Policy. Program of oral interpretation, public forum, SPAR. Did I miss one?
What was the one between policy and PF?
POI,
Oh. Okay,
Program of Oral Interpretation, sorry.
it's new, I forgot about it. That goes, but there's also those one-offs and stuff.
Yeah, there's the one-offs that, they pull some of the ones that are listed as middle school only, like poetry, declamation, storytelling. News anchor is one that's not actually like an event that goes anywhere, but a lot of tournaments start in as a fun event.
So
Hey,
is
Doug.
there a site we can go to look at each of those and they explain what they are?
National Speech and Debate Association, so speechanddebate.org.
You just go there, okay.
For boys.
No, the impromptu, they have to go to it.
Oh, duo.
No,
No.
it's
Oh, that's just a,
It's odd impromptu.
yeah.
Thanks, that's the word.
That's not one of the usual.
It's not, it's one of the one-offs. So the online platform, you can have every unit as an event, or every event as a unit, and kind of have each kid learn the basics of each thing. I'm trying something this year where I'm clustering my units that are similar events. For those of you in Canyons District, I did put it on Commons in case you want to jack it. I can put it out for everybody, but I just put it for Canyons so that people in other like states weren't going, I don't know what this is. But I clustered all of the events into 4 units. So all my basic debates are 1 unit. The kids pick one, they have to read and all about it, and they have to watch them perform like example videos, and then take a quiz on it.
Is it really different from Tanya's?
Yeah,
Can still? All right. Can you put them up there?
it's out there for Canvas, or for Canyons. I can put it on for everybody else though.
Everybody.
Okay, I will do it. Just because I love you. I mean, I'm sure I do.
We don't know each other.
We don't know each other, but I'm sure if I got to know you, I would love you.
Oh, yeah, you'd love this.
But so I've clustered the events so that kids have to go through each of the 4 modules and learn 1 event out of each of the 4. So they start specializing in one. Because what I learned last year is that when I give an overview of all of the events and let kids start picking and choosing, which is how I was taught, so it's how I decided to try and approach it first. The kids, just like adults, once you settle on something, once your idea has been like, oh, I really like that, you feel like you can't change your mind. It's like a kid, you don't assign seats, and they walk in and they will sit in the same spot every day because they picked that seat, so they somehow feel like they're married to the idea of staying in that one seat, and then someone comes in and sits in it, and they're like, but they're in my spot! And I'm like, it's not your spot. Technically, they're all mine. So, if you make kids have to pick multiple things to specialize in, and then start paring it out or paring it down, it's a lot easier to get them to be willing to try new things. Because a lot of kids go, well, but I'm an extemper. And I'm like, no, you're an ALTA debater. You happen to do extemp, but you can do other things. What else do you want to do? And they're like, but I'm an extemper.
Yeah.
So, like, there's 2 ways to get kids out of that mentality, right? Tanya does the approach where every kid learns each of the events, right? And they have to try each event once. That might be at a tournament, that might be at an in-class tournament, right? You might have like an in-house thing just so they can practice. So you can do it that way, or you can cluster whatever floats your boat, right? But this kind of gives you an example of how many different ways there are to approach what you can do, right? Is there anyone in here that wants to share something about, like, maybe something that they've tried that works really well for their class or the structure of their room with regards to how they plan? Tim?
I just had a question. What do you do with policy kids? Because they're like, I need all this time to be cutting cars and
Yeah.
things. Like, do you
So
still treat them as like?
I make them still try, but I leave my units as really quick, like, they could blow through and do all units in one day.
Okay.
And be like, okay, I did your quizzes, I proved that I accomplished it. Now I'm gonna go cut cards, and I go, okay, great, thanks, go.
Okay.
But also the kids that are, the policy kids are the ones that, they got their resolution at the end of last school year and they've been working all summer.
Yeah.
So I'm far less worried. Yes.
Really like to do a station rotation, where over here, students are gonna be working on this, and then over here, and then after so long, then they have to go hit these different things.
Okay, so do you do it as events, or do you do it as like genres, like, okay, when you go to this table, you're gonna learn how to cut cards? That's, like,
I did
applicable for
it
everything.
as events last year, because again, that's the way I was learned, but
Yeah.
this year, I want to go that they learn
So-
the different skills and stuff.
So you're gonna do a skills rotation
Yeah.
rather than event rotation?
Yeah.
So we just got 2 new ideas. Exciting.
Which skills are you going to do? So you're going to do evidence cutting?
Should do
Yeah,
flowing should be one.
Flowing,
Mhm.
probably hooks, like AGDs,
Case writing.
yeah, how to do a CP. like
Research.
Research?
How to research. Counterplan.
Okay.
Blocks, questions.
Hold on, slow down.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, gosh, Tracy.
Questions,
How dare you be.
okay. Oh, we said hooks, hooks are good ones.
I would even start by doing a station rotation with all of the basic things, like how to break down the question.
Okay.
Like with novice kids, they need to understand like how many different elements there are in that question that they need to break down before they can start trying to do a case or a counter plan or a disadvantage or a critique, which novice policy can't do until after January, just a reminder.
So I took my JV and varsity debaters and had them put a list of skills and said, pick the one you're best at, and then they'll teach that one to the rest of the class.
I think memorization strategies for novice.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there are multiple ways to memorize, and again, kids go, but I just memorize it, and I'm like, how do you memorize? How did you pick to memorize that?
We even have a whole day, we call it rhetoric, but it's really competence.
Yeah.
How to walk in and own a room.
Mhm. I've had kids that have lost a round, and they've gotten higher points because the judge was like, the other kid was stronger, but your kid was so much more confident in what they were saying. Like, and it nearly won them the round. Yeah. All right, so I would like for you please to turn to your neighbor and talk about one thing that either you saw on the board that you really liked, or that you heard that you really liked, or something that you do in your classroom that you're planning to expand on or build for this coming year. Turn and talk, please.
What's that? I'm trying to wait for 20 minutes, so.
That's why I was thinking.
Don't want my class to be another year
Yeah.
I've evolved for the way I teach debate in classrooms correlates very well with other expectations.
I was always asking my RC, I'm running on a school just that it's not going to be flying to. Just say, I can't look right to it's a disadvantage.
They're going to be if they have a lot of opportunities out of the year. There was a significant number of
All right, we're gonna come back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Anyone want to share out something they just heard that was really cool? Anyone want to be like, I thought of this, or my partner thought of this, but they're too chicken to say something, so I'm just gonna tell you, like, this was a really cool idea. Yeah.
I really think that, what Tanya was talking about teaching the kids the ethics
Yeah.
is so vital.
Yeah.
The kids don't really get that at either home or in any of their other classes, so
Yeah.
teaching that is really important.
I love that. I'm gonna hit on that a little bit with leadership, so let's add to that in just a minute, but that's gonna be a perfect segue in just a second. I love that.
We included that in like the skills rotations idea.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
you could absolutely put it in skills rotation. All right. So let's talk about class structure. A lot of us have really different class environments. Last year, all of my debate kids were just in, 2 class periods, and it was debate 1 through 4. And it'd be like, all right, I'm gonna do a mini lesson where I teach about how to do this. Not all of my varsity, get out. They'd go sit and work in the hall while I'd work with my novice, right? Trevor, that's basically your situation as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of us don't have it. This year I have the opportunity where I have a differentiated schedule. I have debate 1, debate 2, and debate 3, 4. And so I can actually differentiate and build skills because of that. But as kids are in there, depending on the way that your class is structured with the level of kids that you have in that room, it's gonna change what you're capable of doing and what kind of dynamic you have. But it might look like you guys clustering by event, right? After they've gone through whatever lessons you want and they're starting to actually prep for tournaments, maybe they haven't, they'll naturally gravitate this way anyway, but they might, go sit at your table clusters by event so that everyone working on extemp is at the same table doing their extemp GD auto filing, right? Or prepping for their round, and you have all of your policy kids over here talking and sharing evidence, right? And all of your LD kids are over here, and they're working on, arguing half a night just to try to attack each other's cases to help build them as they go, right? So you can have them cluster by events. One of the things that I did last year that ended up actually working really well is anytime you guys are in a classroom, you're like, all right, anyone have any questions about what we're gonna do before we get started? And everyone just sits there. And you're like, no, follow my example. Raise your hand. Come on. This is how I am in class too. One of the things that I found to get rid of the dead silence is to do board signups for coach time. You can't be everywhere at once. If you can, please share your secret with me. I do 5-minute increments on the board and I just write down the times on the whiteboard and I go all the way across. And I say, okay, as soon as it's work time, any of you that want to come talk to me about anything at all, whether it's practice or you have questions or whatever, just come sign up for time. And if you know you're going to need more than 5 minutes, draw an arrow down for the amount of time that you need. And all of a sudden, my time is almost completely filled with kids that have signed up. Kids that aren't going to ask a question for the entire class, As soon as they know that they can sign up for time to come talk with me or get like private coaching or have me read over what they've written so far and give them like feedback on, you know, what they've started with their oratory, as soon as they know they can sign up for coaching time, all of a sudden I'm constantly working with the kids that are needing the help. The kids that don't need my help are working, and I can just like glance up, check, yeah, okay, we're good, come back to this. And the kids will actually come ask you for help. Which I'm super excited about because no one likes a room where it's dead silent. There's also an option for, one of the conversations I had with the coach over the course of the year, last year, was trying to figure out how to give my kids points for the class time. Because they can't always come to the tournament, so I can't always dock them points for coming to tournaments because there's no way to make that up. And you know, obviously there's ways to, you know, do in-class whatevers to try to adjust for it. But I was told of this really great idea by a friend of mine whose kid is on my team. If you are in the high school circuit, you have probably met her because she's everywhere. She's teaching Congress this afternoon. Her name's Sarah, and she was like, well, when I coached debate, I gave them a menu. Every week they have to hit so many points, and they get to earn their points however they want throughout that week by doing certain things, and each thing on the menu is worth a certain amount of points. If I'm going to auto-file, that's 5 points for the week, or 5 points for that day. If I'm going to be cutting cards, that's a certain amount of points. If I'm going to be working on my speech, that's a certain amount of points. If I'm going to be doing a mock round, that's a certain amount of points. And as long as they hit whatever threshold of points you create, they get those points for the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of do that, but my big question is, who keeps track of that? Does a kid mark it in their own little, because I've got 30 kids, how?
No, I would create.
Grading is the hardest part, I swear. I hate grading.
So if it were me, and I were trying to keep kids on an honor system so that I'm not micromanaging, but I wanted to keep them honest, I would have just I would probably do it on half sheets to save paper, but I'd do a print out of the menu, and I'd have them date and initial anytime they achieved, like they did hit one of those menu points.
So they're just keeping track of their own.
Yeah, and then at the end of the week, I'd have them turn it in.
We're tempted to put those on the board so that everybody can see what people are doing, kind of your external motivation, just so people see who's earning. You know, if I'm not earning points and everybody else is, then I need to work harder.
My external motivation, I started out the year not wanting to like shame kids if they weren't competing, and then I was like, I'm not gonna shame them by like pointing it out, but I'm gonna put on the board. I started just by listing the levels and the names in order of points without putting their points. And then it got to the point where the kids were like, can we have our points on the board? Because like Tracy's ahead of me, but like by how far? Because I bet I can beat her at the next tournament. And it got to the point where it started building and kids were trying so much harder because that external motivator was right there visual in your face. And it was never something that we called out. It was never something we did. But it was something that built up, and it got to the point where speechanddebate.org sells the pins for the level that they're at, and I bought a bunch of them, and I gave them to the kids at their level, and I said, as soon as you level up, as soon as you go from merit to honor, I'm gonna take your silver pin, and I'm gonna give you a silver pin with the emerald in it. And then when you level up to excellence, you're gonna turn in your pin, and I'm gonna give you the new pin. And they get so excited over getting to build up to a new pin, you would think it was Christmas.
Well, just the stickers.
Yeah, I just have them turn it back in.
That's awesome.
And then as soon as they turn it back in, I give it to them. If they wanna keep it, they can pay me for the pin. And then that way I can still replenish my supply.
We do merit badges that you can earn, and we just bought a bunch of made in China iron-on patches that they can sew on. Like your first tournament, you get a couple of cherries, and then like the one that students really end up loving though is called Tough Round, and it's like the plus, because when you have and you lost a round by no fault of your own.
Yeah.
You get a badge for that. So after kids come out of a terrible round, we're like, hey, you get tough round. They're like, yeah, I do. So that's kind of a cool way to ease that pain.
To build that, I love that idea. So excited about it right now. Yeah.
My high school team did the same thing you were talking about, and I can attest to it being a big motivator.
If you don't have an intrinsic, you have
still like,
yeah,
I was
still
20 points short of my triple.
This close.
It's so like,
This close.
Even as a coach, I want that next one.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I always am like,
but the same system where you trade it, you
Yeah,
know,
is it-
you
yeah.
leveled up,
Traded in your
And
pen.
they get so excited, they're like, can I bring it in before school? Yeah.
So where did you put their pins?
So I let my kids buy a letter sweater,
Okay.
just so that when we show up to
That's what I
tournaments,
was
they all
wondering,
have their
so
sweaters.
it's
So,
on
and I
there.
haven't put it on their A.
Okay.
So their pin for our team, they put it on their A and it's indicated, and then when they earn their letter, I actually do different swag instead of the letter on the sweater. Because I just like the look of the uniformity and the professionalism that kids come in and have. My kids got super excited when I handed out their varsity swag. I think I have a lot more kids that are gonna try for varsity next year. I got them laptop messenger bags, the gray ones that look just like the NSDA ones. I didn't realize that they were the exact same. They were the exact same bag. The NSDA. Do you have that bag, Tim? Is that what I stood up?
No, I'm just standing up.
You're standing up. Okay. It's the exact same laptop messenger bag that NSDA bought, but I just put the Alta Debate logo on it. This one, in red on a gray messenger bag, and now kids are walking around, and it's a walking advertisement for my team.
Yeah.
You know, and each year when they hit varsity, they'll get a different swag, and I just have to have 4 swags that I rotate, so that every,
So what are your swags for varsity?
So this last year it was the messenger bag. This coming year is gonna be a pad folio.
A pad folio?
You know, it's the leather, almost like it's not a trapper keeper, but it's.
A cover for?
It's like a cover, it has the legal pad on the inside with a little pocket.
Okay.
But on the front has the embossed or the logo of whatever you,
How do you have money to do all this?
So,
tournaments.
You hosting tournaments, okay.
And, I mean, you have your fees for the beginning of the year, and that pays for, I buy all my kids a shirt, because we have silver and black, so all my kids get a silver and black shirt. And it pays for their NSDA membership, their fees pay for their membership, so they can start getting points and get their certificate.
So what are your other 2? Messenger bag, pad folio.
I'm gonna do a thermal tumbler, and then I haven't decided for my top
So
year.
when you say they hit varsity, they only hit varsity once, right?
You can hit varsity every year.
What do you mean by hit? I thought varsity meant you'd been in debate more than one, like year, 2 or 3 years.
So each school determines what constitutes the lettering in debate. In order to letter in debate.
So you're just talking about
You
lettering.
can,
Okay.
yeah, but that keeps you in varsity level.
when you say varsity, you mean they lettered?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about.
So if they lettered that year.
yeah, if they letter for that
So
year.
that's like at the end of the year though.
Each school determines.
It's
like-
at the end of the year.
Letters and
It's
then
your-
the
each
things
school
are really
has
good,
their
so
own
you say How your does yours standards for what a letter?
How do they-
Like mine,
So you
you
have
meet
to
the
require
requirements
them.
in the tournament to go to state.
They have to hit 100 points, and I give them a charge.
Certain NSDA.
They have to hit they get so many points for tournaments, they get so many points for judging middle school, they get points for coaching middle school teams, they get points for, being captain and hosting after-school labs. Like, I just give them, I just keep track of that, because I give them a tracker to keep track of, and they never turn it in. But every time we go to a tournament, I mark who was there, and then I just want to go, okay, everyone that showed up gets, 3 points towards this, or 5 points towards this. And it works out well for me.
How are you doing
I took it from Tanya.
How are you doing your lettering jackets this year with the new fee schedule? It's gonna be more here, you figure out a way to do that?
I charge the kids $50, and I pay for the rest of it, out of my debate
So
fund.
they all pay $50.
So they all pay $50.
That pays for NSDA membership and their.
No, their fee's $75, which is what's allowed. But, because of the tournament that I host every year, I have the ability to kind of use my own coffers to make sure that every kid can have a letter sweater if that's what they want. So they get to choose if they want to pay the $50 for their sweater, and I eat the cost for the other like 75. Yeah.
With your weekly menus, you were saying that they earn a certain number of points for each task they complete in that day, and then there's a threshold for the day to earn the points for that day?
I do it by the week.
Okay, there's a threshold
So
for the week?
There's a threshold for the week.
So if they don't meet that threshold,
Then they would just get partial points.
okay.
Like I wouldn't give
So
them
that's
zero credit.
that's just the 100% levels?
Yeah, the 100% level is hitting the points.
Okay.
I would probably, like, if you're on an A/B schedule, I would give them like a 2-week menu, and they have to hit so many points in that 2 weeks so that every kid has 5 days. Because otherwise, how are you gonna keep track of, like, you'd have to have a 2-day menu and a 3-day menu.
Do you by chance have like an example of like, you put these up on the board or something like that, what the menu item is?
I don't have one, I didn't bring it, but I can send it out, I can email it
Yeah,
out to you
that'd
guys.
be
Do
great.
you guys want me to send it out?
Yes,
Do you
please.
put on the
Yeah.
board, or do you give them a piece of paper that's?
I give them a piece of paper that they need to mark up and sign. Like if you're gonna, and I do it after my unit modules. So after, like as soon as tournament prep starts, and my lesson planner just says tournament prep, that's when that's when they're accountable for their own time. So they can sign up with time with me, and they get points for for working with me. They get points for, showing, and there's basically being accountable for their own time.
So you do all your event units before October?
Huh? I do all my event units in the first 4 weeks of school, because that way the novices still have 3 weeks to prep for Beehive, which is the opening weekend, or Lone Peak Novice. Bill in here? Lone Peak Novice and Beehive are the same weekend,
And Clearfield does one at the same time.
and Clearfield does one at the same time too. So regardless of where you are, you can make a tournament. The last thing is the use of technology to help you work smarter, not harder. I created a tracker on my computer, on my Mac, and just set it as a template so that I can pull that template for every year and just point it in, and it already has all of my listings. It already has all of my, I do conditional formatting so that everything color codes so that I can visually see kids that are hitting their marks and kids that aren't. That's important to me. But I also use it where I can't hit every kid every day. I can, if I have a bunch of kids that want to give me their entire oratory, and they want feedback on that oratory, and they want to have all of these, especially when we're getting really close. There's times where I don't have time to help them with that in class, but I have an app called Movie Markup. Oh, and of course it's like deleted everything. Let's see if it'll open. All right, here we go. Hopefully this will play. No. All right, so when I pull it up, every time, on this bottom row, every time you see a little red line, that was a video annotation that I put on the video of the kids' oratory.
Okay, that's cool.
And I'd indicate, like, you're doing a weird thing with your hands. And then he can look at it and be like, oh, I'm watching myself. I am doing a weird thing with my hands.
Yeah.
Because kids aren't willing to watch themselves on video. They don't like doing self-reflections. But if they know that they're gonna get feedback from it, they're more willing to watch themselves perform.
And that's a movie.
It's called Movie Markup.
It's
I
an
think
app.
it's an app. It is like, it's like $7, I think.
Okay.
But the amount of work that it, like, and it takes, it's not a fast thing. Like, you have to make sure that you have time to sit down and work on it. But the kids love being able to see it. I pull it up and then I just send it through the iCloud to their email account so they can just watch it through the cloud so it doesn't have like the gigabyte confinement size. But it took one of my kids that had been hitting middle of the road in all of his rounds for oratory, ended up placing like 3rd in state. And like it took kids from doing like okay to going, oh, that's what my judges kept making a comment about, because they finally see it. But they're not, a lot of kids aren't willing to watch themselves perform. But if they're getting feedback from you while they see themselves perform,
So do you have to film it with that app, or can they film it and send it?
they
to
can
you?
film it and send it to you. You just open it in that app, and then you just get to annotate it. There is a learning curve. Yeah.
Question to you for anybody in the room, is there any other like online free recording things that we could do that with our students? Like if they had their Chromebooks, they can record themselves?
I'm pretty sure there is.
And then do peer review as well?
I'm pretty sure there is.
Okay.
Can't they do it through Canvas?
Can
Can
they?
you record yourselves and submit a recording through Canvas?
Yes, but you can't have annotations. You'd have to be like at 2 minutes 56 seconds. you did this weird thing with your hands.
Oh, so it's not a real-time annotation?
Yeah, it's not
just
real-time
at the
annotation, it's just,
end,
it's like giving notes at the
But
end.
it's better than nothing.
It is
Yeah.
better than
Yeah.
nothing,
They
and
don't
it's free.
have to watch themselves, I like the idea
Yeah.
that they have to watch themselves to
Exactly.
see
To get
that.
the feedback, yeah.
Moses.
Yeah, just to answer Tim's question, one of the tools I use is Edpuzzle, which is where you can take a video, either you make or one from YouTube, and it will force the students watching the video, it will self-interrupt and force students to answer a question about the video before they move on. So it forces them to pay attention.
I love that.
What is that?
What's it
Ed
called?
Puzzle.
Edpuzzle, it's free,
It's free.
yeah.
Awesome, thanks for that. I've actually heard of that and I totally forgot about it. Yeah.
I'm just wondering with this video recording like you do on the app, you were saying, I was just wondering, isn't there like rules against like recording students or?
In a tournament,
Like, no, I'm
At
just
your own
talking,
school.
I'm talking about.
At your own school.
at your own school. I'm not recording other kids and I'm not publishing it. I'm
These
not
are
making it
kids
social.
recording themselves
This is kids
and
recording
sending it.
themselves,
Oh,
getting
and sending
feedback
it
from
to you.
me, and then me sending it back to them.
Oh, okay,
So
I
there
thought
is-
I
there
thought
is-
you were recording on your device.
This is a school device. It just happens to look like a notebook. But this is, thank you. And I was very insistent on getting the one with the Gen 2 Apple Pen because of the different features with the tap back. So if you're getting one, don't like get the tap, like get the 2-tap, like the 2nd gen Apple Pencil, like it's worth it. But it's a school thing. So because it's just private coaching, there's no violation from that.
Okay.
If I were to start playing the video for you and like walking around so that all of you guys were seeing my kids, like, and you like were all, like, that might be a violation. But I also don't put it on social media. Like, don't send it to him through YouTube. All right, anybody else?
We can also put that in like our disclosure statements too.
Yeah,
saying
you totally
that
could.
we're going to be
Yeah.
videoing our kids
Mhm.
in class for academic purposes so that they can improve
And the
I
video.
guess parents can opt out if they don't want. their kids to
Absolutely.
do it.
The video one that I do is if kids want to. Or they'll say, I need to get feedback on it, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to do it in front of you yet. I have a lot of kids that are afraid to do it in front of me. So I'll let them take the iPad out into the hall, record themselves, and then bring it back in. And then when they get the feedback, they realize it wasn't as bad as they thought. And then the next time they'll do it in front of me.
And that's one menu item, right?
Uh-huh.
It's worth
It's
points.
absolutely a menu item. And it's worth more than say auto filing with extension.
What's nice about that too is that if you've got the kids taking some individual time to film themselves, you're not having to take a lot of class time to have
Exactly.
them go in front of other
It'll
people.
take more time, it's more time on you later,
Yeah.
but
Be more instructional.
But the differentiation that you can do with that individualized instruction, to me, is worth my time. And if I'm just sitting there and watching TV or listening to an audiobook or something, like, I'll just do it while I'm going, you know? Yeah.
Do you have a rule that's like, I will only do your speech once a week? Do you have the kids that like, oh, I made a tiny little change, will you watch it again?
Yeah, I would look at them and tell them, just tell me what your change is, and then I'd give them feedback just on that one little change. But I'm like, I have
better things to do.
finishing a dissertation, like, my time's my time. Like, I'm pretty honest with them. Yeah.
How do you manage plagiarism and documentation for oratories? Do you?
Have them submit through Canvas with the plagiarism checker.
Okay, so that's what you do, you have them write it all, and then before region, do you go through that more carefully, or how do you?
I go through it carefully from the beginning,
From the beginning.
because I have no interest. Fun fact, at, which tournament was it? Knight's Joust, I think. Bill and Tanya ran an incredible tournament, and everything went really smoothly until Tanya came in, not until. And then, I'm having this great time and I'm all excited, and Tanya comes in and she goes, there's a report that one of your girls plagiarized her speech. Can you show me her speech? And I was like, yeah, here it is. And I could show her, and I said, you can copy and paste any line into Google, and it's not gonna pull up a perfect match. And I did it for her, and I proved it, because at that point I wasn't using Canvas, and at that point I went, from this point on I'm using Canvas with the plagiarism checker in it, so that I never have to deal with this again.
Do you have a threshold where you don't accept or accept?
So I do it more holistically. It's like, if English teachers, if you get a thing, it'll show you, like, if you see where there's like 3 words changed in a paragraph, obviously it's pretty stolen. And by pretty stolen, I mean super stolen. So, like, it's just a judgment thing. A lot of times it won't recognize where the quotes are, and so it'll say that it's plagiarized and there's actually quotes with a citation in it. So it's just like scanning through, but it'll highlight everything and then you go, oh, yeah, it's right there. But that was the story for me that was like, I'm never going through this again, because despite the fact that I proved her innocence, the girl had spread it around and the judges had heard about it, and so she got last in every place, like in every round, and it tanked her tournament. And so while everyone else was winning all of these awards, she was getting last place, and it was undeserved. So I was like, no, from now on, I'm doing everything above board just to prove that my kids have nothing to hide.
So you were already in the practice of carrying you had her.
I had her copy of her speech.
You had all the oratories in your own satchel.
At that point, I was having them shared to me on Google Drive.
Oh, on Google Drive.
And then I was like, I'm taking one step further. Moses has a great idea.
Not an idea, just some further elaboration on the threshold. So there's actually a rule.
It's 10%,
for more than 10%. And it's like, not the same as plagiarism, like it has to be cited regardless how much it is, but
Right.
even if it is
But for using
properly
outside
cited,
sources,
it can't
10%.
exceed the 10%
But
threshold.
plagiarism, as you're looking through the plagiarism checker, it should be
Depending on the
0.
different
But-
ones, it'll say,
Yeah.
there's like a similarity score
Yeah.
of whatever
But that
percentage.
similarity score, the reason I say I don't use a threshold is because a lot of times it'll mark those quoted areas
Right,
as not quoted properly, and so it counts it against them.
got it.
So that's why I don't count the similarity score as a threshold, but yes, most of this for like oratory, it's 10%, and it has to be correctly cited, and that's it.
Got it.
But for plagiarism, it should be a 0. Let's think fair share. Anyone, or do you guys want to just move on? We're almost at 10. Just move on. Oh, I went backwards. Good job, me. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Totally went backwards.
Because that's exactly what I said.
Okay. So there's a lot of different ways to structure your leadership, and it depends on the size of your team and how many of them are brand new. When I came into taking over, there was a really cool 2-level structure where I had event captains, and then I had division captains and a team captain. So my team captain, my division captain kind of helped out with some of the stuff when I needed something to happen really quickly and I could delegate. And then my event captains would help sit with kids in class and show them, okay, this is what I did, or this is how I'm working, and stuff like that. You can increase those levels depending on the size of your team. I've gone to 3 levels, so I now have my team and division captains, I have my event captains, and then I have lieutenants underneath those captains, and all of my lieutenants are underclassmen. And I'm basically having them learn from the captains how to lead, so that as they move forward in their high school career, they can move up into captainship and start training the next kid. So I'm building a supportive structure that will allow me to keep having things built, no matter what. I mean, if you have an even bigger team, you can even delegate further, right? But it really depends on what you need. If you have a team of 12, then every kid basically becomes a captain.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it no longer means anything. But if you, like, right now I have 4 classes. I have 80 kids on my team. Granted, like, that's not counting for the attrition that's gonna hit when all the kids go, I have to go to tournaments. I lost 7 last year. I'm not super worried about a high rate of attrition. But they're gonna see what the kids get on their lockers when they pay their fees and stick with the team. This is my varsity sticker for their lockers.
Your
We're
kids use
taking
their
out
lockers.
lockers.
I bought a
for
Cricut.
high school, so that was-
I'm also gonna award an Alta debate sticker for all.
You're also gonna award an Alta debate sticker?
You can just go to our school and just pick them off the lockers.
One of the things about growing your team is branding, right? Like, it's a marketing thing. Regardless of how much you want to believe, it's just like the integrity of how hard you're working. A lot of it's marketing, right? If your kids come to judge a middle school tournament, they should be wearing something that promotes their school, and that should be such a positive influence that when kids leave, they go, man, that kid from Alpha was so cool. Or man, that kid from Brighton was so cool. Or man, that kid from Salem Hills was so cool, right? Like, that word of mouth is really important. But how they, like, when you walk into a tournament, those kids should have, like, that confidence from the pride that comes from coming in and going, yes, I know that things look, I look good. And sometimes that's the sweater, sometimes it's the bag, right? Sometimes it's just knowing that they all wanted to wear a white shirt and a black tie with black pants and their sweater so that they all matched. My kids did that without me knowing. And we started showing up and everyone was in Alta colors, and I was like, I can find my team without even trying. But a lot of it's branding, and a lot of it's making sure I'm fortunate enough to have a friend who is a professional graphic designer that designed my logo for free. So I could then put it onto all of my shirts and all of my gear and everything that I wanted without costing me an arm and a leg.
Well, you're also fortunate to have a lot of money. There's a lot, most schools don't.
I also do a lot of things where I get friends to do things for me for cheap or free. Yeah.
Every school here probably has talented kids with art skills and such, so tap into that, do like a competition.
Do a competition.
Or do one that's got
Absolutely.
For a new logo.
Or you can contact the departments, like the art department.
Yeah.
The schools of kids that are doing that, they can use that as an assignment.
Make it a contest, whoever wins gets the hoodie for free.
Yep.
A lot of times, a lot of the things that seem like they're gonna be super expensive aren't if you buy them in bulk and just save them for multiple years. Like, just don't put the year on something and then save them. Like, the messenger bags, these really nice laptop bags, I got them for $10 a bag. That's cheaper than you can buy any backpack for school. And it's just because I bought them in bulk. So a lot of times it isn't as expensive as you think. You just need to shop around. And I do a lot of my stuff online. Remember to delegate. One of the things that I did with my kids is I looked at my captains and I told them that I wanted them to create a constitution. It's like if your kids walk in and you have them create class norms. When kids have buy-in to the rules, they're more willing to enforce them. And more often than not, they'll be way harder on themselves than you will be on them. So I gave my captains, I told them UHSAA rules are non-negotiable. Here are the list of my rules that are non-negotiable. Anything else that you want to put in, like put it in, I'll read it, we'll draft it, we'll create it together, and then we'll all hold each other accountable. It allows for these norms to create a buy-in where the kids are far more willing to push themselves hard. My captains made a rule that they can't be below a 2.5 instead of the 2.0 that UHSAA requires. Like, they started putting themselves to higher standards. They started pushing themselves to greater norms. So, ignore the yellow. This is while we were still giving feedback. My team captain happens to be a Congress nerd. So he drafted the entire Constitution to look like our actual Constitution. With we the people even starting our I know! I love it! They even refer to it as a shofdom.
Are you gonna print paper and burn the edges?
I'm putting it up, I'm laminating it, and they're gonna sign all of it, just like the declaration at the bottom, they're gonna sign it. But it's in order to form a more perfect shofdom. Their cleverness and their willingness to create norms that they want to hold each other accountable to is always higher. Am I way over time?
Oh no, I was just gonna ask you which Congress nerd it was.
Daniel.
Yes.
But I mean, look at the rules that they have started. Like, you know, they're giving themselves the jobs that they wanna hold. They're giving themselves the responsibilities that they wanna hold themselves accountable to.
Sydney,
And
can
it
you
takes it a lot off of me.
Can you send this to us so we can show our classes?
Yeah, I can do that.
Super cool. If you wanna be as good as Alpha, look what they make.
Yeah. I can do that for you. I'm going backward again. Son of a duck! Sorry, that's my swear word of choice when I'm in a classroom setting.
Whoa.
I know, harsh language.
I think they record these classrooms.
Somebody can.
All right, this is our.
I don't see any cameras, but.
So we're gonna move into after school labs. Because not all of you guys have classes, some of you guys just have teams that are after school.
It's Summit, of course they have cameras.
So some of the options for that, the way that I worked it last year, worked and didn't work. The kids that were really competitive and devoted would come in, like, I offered it Mondays and Wednesdays after school, and I had kids that were there every Monday and Wednesday without fail, and it was worth points for their week. I had a minimum requirement that almost no one hit, and I finally had to just like give up on that because certain kids were also in swim and track and all of these other crap, and I couldn't hold them accountable to an after-school lab because they had class time. But I just had it, like last year, it was just to come as you need and get help. And some of the kids took a lot of advantage of that, and there were some kids that I didn't see for the entire year.
Yeah.
And so, like, if that works for you, awesome, but that really requires a lot of intrinsic motivation. Or, I mean, maybe it's some external motivation if they're still trying to hit those points. Like, it could be a longer term extrinsic motivation. One of the things that you could also do is have a division of time by event. Like, on Mondays after school, it's Congress time. And only, you know, Congress only gets Mondays after school to come work on Congress with their coach. On Tuesdays, it's interps and POIs, and we're only gonna work on this, you know, and you could like divide out your week that way, so that you had time for each group and have smaller groups so that you're still just working small group or one-on-one. The way that I'm trying it this year, and I promise I'll tell you at the end of the year how it's working, is I'm having the captains run the after-school labs, and they're required to plan the lessons that they wanna do with the novices to do with their labs, and they're required to schedule time. And if there's, and on the calendar with the schedule, for the time schedule, if there's already 2 classes signed up, they have to sign up with a different teacher, or they have to pick a different day. And like, it's one of the things that they put in their constitution that they get to run labs, so.
Do they get like different grades? Like, would that be part of there as a captain grade?
So they get points towards their academic letter for being a captain, and it's significantly more than just going to a tournament. 2 minutes? Dang it. All right, I think,
We'll stop
I think,
talking.
well, no, I think all I have left is Q&A, so I think we're good. Like, let's just jump to Q&A. It's so hot. Okay,
There's city
hold on.
ordinances against that word.
Oh my God.
You could get impeached.
It's like 85 on there, like,
We
whoa.
don't even have AC, so I'm like, whatever.
Wow. So guess what? Please, I just kicked on the air. Thank you.
Raising taxes?
Sydney?
Yes.
I heard that you've got some Canvas modules.
Yes.
That are I heard they're only available to your district. Right now.
I actually promised at the beginning of the session, I'll put it out for all comments.
Right.
It's not like super elaborate. I have it where, you know, they have the 4 and it's, you pick one, right? They go in, there's a link for something for them to read. Sometimes there's 2. A lot of times it's pulled from the NSDA's site specifically. And then there's a video for them to watch to actually see what it looks like. I pulled from nationals when I could. If I couldn't pull from nationals, it's something else that was on YouTube that had a high caliber for me, like that I felt good about putting on there. And then at the end of that, there's one quiz that they have to take for the 3 to 4, whatever they read. And it's formed in the structure of a 3-2-1. Tell me 3 things that you learned, tell me 2 things that you found interesting, give me a question that you have, things like that, so that they could show me that they had done the actual activity.
And then I know Tanya has some modules too.
Tanya has stuff and it's completely different, so
Yeah.
feel free to pull both. What I suggest if you have access to Canvas is go into your Canvas dashboard, click create a course, and create a sandbox, and then just import both of them into the sandbox, pick and choose what you want, and then send that to your actual debate Canvas course.
Lots of good ideas on both of them.
That that is the end of our session. Thank you so much.
Cool.